Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar News, your most reliable source for verified updates on the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong. Today's episode brings an explosive revelation that's setting the currency investment world abuzz. Recent insights shared by Frank26, a prominent figure in the dinar and dong investment community, are capturing attention like never before. He's just unveiled new details about potential exchange rates and confidential financial activities that hint at a major shift. Could we be witnessing the final setup before a long-anticipated global currency reset? Stay with us, because the implications are huge for both new and seasoned holders of IQD and VND. According to Frank26, there's growing evidence suggesting both the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong are on the verge of substantial revaluations. He referenced behind-the-scenes briefings, training simulations, and activities within U.S. financial institutions, claiming that revaluation procedures have already been simulated. He specifically noted internal training at redemption centers, involving rates reportedly as high as $0.40 for the dinar and up to $0.02 for the dong. These aren't just unfounded projections. Frank insists these rates were used in real institutional scenarios, not as fantasy exercises. He highlighted the unique role redemption centers are expected to play. These centers, distinct from regular banks, have allegedly prepared to process high-volume exchanges. Frank mentioned that personnel at these facilities have been trained using rates several times higher than what the public currently sees. That kind of internal readiness points to one thing: preparation for a significant valuation event. If this shift is as close as suggested, then being ready in advance may make all the difference. With exchange windows potentially narrow and time-sensitive, investors might not have long once the process begins. Frank also emphasized the rising global profile of the Vietnamese dong. He noted Vietnam's rapid industrial expansion, growth in foreign investment, and improvements in financial governance as critical foundations for a stronger currency. As per some international discussions, the dong could reach up to $0.03, a dramatic increase from its current suppressed rate. That kind of adjustment would represent a massive return for early investors who believed in the currency's long-term potential. Much like Iraq, Vietnam is upgrading its banking systems and striving to meet global standards, suggesting both nations may soon align with a more integrated global monetary framework. The developments aren't just talk. Frank pointed to tangible events backing his analysis. Specifically, the recent decision by Chase Bank to accept 25,000 dinar notes for processing. For years, major banks avoided the IQD due to issues like regulatory risk and counterfeit concerns. So when a leading U.S. financial institution begins processing Iraqi currency, that signals something significant. According to Frank, this move likely reflects green lighting at the highest financial levels, indicating that the dinar's legitimacy and reliability are reaching new thresholds. Equally noteworthy is Iraq's own shift in tone. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani has adopted a direct and proactive stance on monetary reform. Frank explained that the government's emphasis on increasing oil revenue, tightening fiscal controls, and embracing economic transparency shows real intent. This leadership isn't brushing off currency speculation anymore. They're confronting it. Combined with continued IMF engagement and renewed international investment, Iraq appears to be setting the stage for a financial transformation. One major focus in Frank's latest update was the countrywide educational campaign known as Azaraq. This 2-month initiative aims to prepare the Iraqi population for significant shifts in the financial system. While some critics argue that the program is moving slowly, Frank views it differently. He believes this deliberate approach is vital for ensuring that Iraqi citizens are ready to adapt when major currency changes happen. A rushed rollout in a financially unprepared country could lead to widespread confusion. The Azaraq initiative shows that Iraq is thinking ahead, not only in policy, but in practical execution. The numbers mentioned by Frank are eye-catching. Redemption center training scenarios reportedly included dinar values between $0.40 and even higher, while the dong was seen ranging from $0.02 to $0.03 in certain cases. Again, while these figures are not officially published by Iraq's or Vietnam's central banks, Frank argues that institutions wouldn't conduct staff training using values that hold no potential. According to him, when banks prepare for a future financial event, they base training simulations on the most likely or credible projections, not fantasy. And now we pause for the moment. In Part 2, we'll explore Frank's insights on why this hasn't happened yet, why timing is everything, and how global strategy may be dictating the delay. We'll also examine how institutions like Chase and broader market patterns suggest the reset might not be far off. Stay tuned as Iraqi Dinar News continues, unpacking every layer of this unfolding financial narrative. Picking up where we left off, many are wondering, if everything is in place, why hasn't the revaluation occurred yet? Frank26 has a clear stance on this. He believes the delay is strategic, not accidental. Both Iraq and Vietnam, according to his assessment, are aiming for stability above all. The goal isn't just to revalue quickly, but to ensure that when it happens, the shift is permanent and backed by sustainable financial architecture. In his words, it's a long chess game, where every piece is being moved carefully to avoid disaster and ensure control when the real move is made. Frank insists that the longer these nations take, the more control they gain. Both countries are overhauling their banking sectors, improving trade dynamics, and aligning with international compliance protocols. By the time the switch flips, they want to make sure they don't face sudden corrections or market instability. Frank describes it as preparing for a checkmate, not a coin toss. This kind of methodical progress requires time, but he argues it's necessary for a successful and lasting financial reset. His message to investors is firm but encouraging. Be ready. Patience is essential, but so is preparation. Many who acquired dinar or dong in hopes of quick profit have exited or grown disillusioned, but Frank believes those who stayed engaged, informed, and mentally prepared stand to benefit the most. He stresses that this isn't the time for rash decisions or panic, but rather a moment to sharpen focus, track verifiable updates, and stay alert. Quiet moves could escalate rapidly when the moment arrives. Frank also cautions against falling for misinformation. The online space is crowded with individuals claiming to have inside sources or exact dates. He pushes back strongly against these narratives. True insiders, he explains, never share firm dates because revaluation isn't rolled out like a public event. It's a highly managed financial mechanism. It will happen quietly and then all at once. That's why he recommends sticking to analysts who highlight patterns, economic movements, and tangible data, not vague promises or viral speculation. His bigger message revolves around transforming hope into strategy. While optimism is important, Frank says discipline is the real asset. Trusting gut instinct is fine, but it must be supported by financial literacy and sound planning. If your investment approach is rooted only in hype, you risk making the wrong move when the opportunity finally arrives. Frank encourages everyone to develop an informed plan and, when in doubt, consult with qualified financial professionals to ensure that any action taken aligns with long-term goals, not just momentary excitement. On the topic of Vietnam, Frank's outlook is equally optimistic. He believes that the Vietnamese dong is being positioned for a significant value correction. Vietnam's export industry has grown rapidly, and its foreign trade balance has improved consistently over the past few years. The country has also worked to reduce reliance on the US dollar, increase its reserve holdings, and forge stronger economic ties with nations like South Korea and Japan. Frank points out that this kind of foundation can't support a suppressed currency forever. He even suggests that if the conditions line up just right, the dong could revalue ahead of the dinar. As for what to watch next, Frank suggests paying close attention to developments from Iraq's central bank. If you see updates regarding digital currency integration, payment infrastructure, or new international settlement pathways, that could be a signal that things are getting closer. The same goes for Vietnam. Any changes in public monetary policy or updates about trade treaties might offer subtle clues that big shifts are underway. For new investors wondering if they've missed the boat, Frank's answer is no, but the window is narrowing. The involvement of major institutions like Chase Bank and the appearance of legitimate rate discussions across financial circles indicates that this is no longer just an idea, it's an active process. He emphasizes that those entering now should do so with careful research and a mindset rooted in long-term strategy, not overnight gain. He reminds everyone that while the upside potential is significant, the risks still exist. Currency investment is never without uncertainty, especially in developing or transitioning economies. That's why he advises having a clear exit strategy, a diversified approach, and a strong grasp of your personal financial limits. Relying on one outcome alone, no matter how promising, is not a responsible plan. Buck also mentioned how shifting global alliances and political trends are subtly reshaping the environment around Iraq and Vietnam. Iraq's efforts to move away from Iranian influence, coupled with improved diplomatic ties with the U.S. and new energy contracts, reflect growing economic independence. In Vietnam, participation in major regional trade pacts like the CPTPP has given it greater credibility on the global stage. These aren't coincidences, they're part of the strategic positioning both countries are taking to be seen as serious players in global finance. To wrap it all up, Frank's message is one of level-headed optimism. The signs are visible. Banks are getting ready, rates are being quietly tested, leadership is focused on economic reform, and the global financial community is paying attention. Both the IQD and VND seem to be on trajectories that could lead to a significant shift in value. But this moment isn't about emotion, it's about knowledge and readiness. Those who remain calm, do their homework, and avoid being pulled in by every headline or video are the ones most likely to succeed. Here at Iraqi Dinar News, we're committed to bringing you clear, factual, and timely updates on this historic financial journey. No matter when the final trigger is pulled, next week, next quarter, or next year, we'll be right here tracking every meaningful shift. Stay smart, stay steady, and above all, stay prepared. The next chapter could begin any moment.